Nothing negative about that. It's their belief system. Good luck to them. But, it's no accident that Prince William was induced to be born on the summer solstice, so that they play with these astronomical energies and astrological energies all the time.
They believe in it. I mean, all these elites are into the occult. It's not debatable.
Rituals will be going on today, elite rituals all over the world in the different countries. Absolutely.
Have you heard of the specific castle he mentioned?
No, but I mean, it's got castle after it, and they love castles. I mean, they've got their European castles all over the place. I mean, they just love the castles and the palaces and all that, because part of their genetics, it has an absolute obsession with hierarchy. And thus they are absolutely obsessed with hierarchy and position and everyone in their place. This is why the Rothschilds have run around all over the bloody place getting barons and lords in front of their names. They're obsessed with it. And the royal family, of course, are a classic.
Yeah, it shows how primitive they are. Look at this. Fidelity Investments funding synthetic biology takeover of life. Infowars.com. Lab-created artificial species will outnumber life 50-1. Financial firm says Fidelity is telling their investors they're going to overwrite, as if none of us have a say, as if they just say this is the future. I mean, this is madness. What they're saying is 10 times wilder than what you're saying, David.
Yeah, Fidelity Investments. So they still got the pyramid as their logo. They did a few years ago. Anyway.
They certainly do. The shining pyramid. We're out of time, David. Promise you'll come back on in the next few months.
Oh, not a problem, mates. I've enjoyed it.
I'm going to come say bye to you during the break. Thank you so much. Got 30 seconds. Closing comments, David.
Well, just what we've talked about today is massively encouraging, because this information that they've suppressed for thousands of years, this really, getting really in the rabbit hole, deep stuff about how they're doing it, is coming out, and more and more people are opening their minds to it. And thus, once we start to get the understanding of how they're doing it, we can stop them doing it. It's when we don't know how they're doing it.
Well said. DavidIcke.com. Alex Jones here. We'll be back in a moment. Infowars.com. Stay with us. For a long time, you've heard me talk about and it burns. Look, this is what you should know. Every major global corporation, the big banks, they're all into the occult, whacked out of their minds, think they're God, think you're scum. They're just releasing biotech, releasing all the GMO, releasing nanotech, jacking the vaccines. Cancer viruses 50 years ago and still today. All sorts of nanotech. I mean, if it wasn't for our incredible genetics and the good Lord above, we wouldn't even be here right now. And you can take David Icke with his, perspective. I wouldn't even call it new agey. All I'm saying is what he says about the elite, they believe that about themselves. Whether it's true or not, they are crazy. They are nuts. I mean, you can get the book at Infowars.com, and it supports what we do here. Plus, we have it discounted because we got it back in print. Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fred Springmeier. And, I mean, I read that thing like 15 years ago and thought, this guy's crazy. The British royalty's Transylvanian, and they live part of the time in Transylvania and stink around in the woods. Now that's mainstream news. I mean, all of it. These people are nuts. And I asked Aaron, he wrote this back on Monday, but I've asked him to repost it to the tiles at the top of Infowars.com because I just mentioned it. I didn't really talk about it on air. Fidelity Investments funding synthetic biology takeover of life. Lab-created artificial species will outnumber natural life 50-1, financial firm claims. And they just say, our fish will take over the ocean, our crops will take over the earth, the trees, the plants, and your body, and we're just going to release it, and that's the way it is. I mean, already, there's no more than about 20, really about 19, but that was a few months ago. They're about to proliferate hundreds of new crops, and within just a few years, 80+% of world corn production, GMO that creates its own pesticide that kills bugs so they can't eat it, but you're supposed to eat it and it's okay, they say. Thousands of different pharmacological crops that produce live viruses in them that they use to put in vaccines or chemicals. Look up pharmacological crops. I mean, we're not in Kansas anymore, as they say. There's certainly in corn from Kansas anymore. But now they're releasing salmon they admit will extinct the regular salmon. That's not an issue, though. Your carbon dioxide that plants breathe, that plants really more like eat it, they don't really breathe it, that they use to move things through their systems, that's evil. The globalists are assaulting creation itself, just assaulting it. Honeybees are dying, all this other environmental crises. There are real issues. There are old forests shouldn't be cut down. There is toxic waste dumping. There's all this stuff taking place. Look at this ad they're running. I'm showing it where nature's black and white and ugly, but everything they do that's biotech is green. Their biotech is green, but nature's black and white. Oh, the XXL salmon's better. Oh, they're going to re-engineer bacteria. Oh, yes. It's so wonderful. And again, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be a problem if it was tested properly. But you can't trust the FDA because they're a bunch of crazy globalists. I mean, remember after a decade of Bayer shipping out Factor 8 to all the hemophiliacs and folks, a blood clotting agent? And it came out they knew they were selling it with AIDS and hepatitis and that it killed hundreds of thousands worldwide. And they just thought it was funny in the board meetings. These people are crippled anyways, kill them. And that's just in the board meetings, knowing about it. Of course, who else wants to create a scientific corps? And every government does this, every large one, every empire. The Russians did it, the communist Chinese, but nobody like the U.S. and England, taking their own soldiers and killing thousands of them right up until the 1980s. That's the last time they declassified stuff. I'm talking, again, march somebody in, hit them with radiation. March somebody in, nerve gas them. March somebody in, spray bioweapon in their face. Kill them and say they died on maneuvers of heat stroke or the flu. Look it up. Look up Operation Shad. Look up all these projects. And you're like, but the government's good, though. These are good people. You know, they always want to grope my wife at the airport because of Al-Qaeda. Oh, really, the same Al-Qaeda they publicly run? That's a fact that the banks that run our country run Al-Qaeda publicly. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. We've got really bad people. You ever wonder why Hitler, Stalin, Mao loved to kill tens of millions and wear black uniforms and burn down cities? Because they like to do it. What the Aztecs like to do, what the Romans like to do. We have psychos running things. They might as well be aliens, okay? They're a bunch of, foreign aliens from 50 trillion miles away. That couldn't be worse.
We're on the march.
Words are very unnecessary for those of us that are already awake. But we tend to forget that. We tend to forget the fact that the general public is not awake and that we're going to have to reach out to them. So many emails, so many calls. People say, oh, thank you for being there, fighting the New World Order. We're glad somebody's doing it. No. The whole point of this transmission, the whole point of this broadcast is to get you to become a leader and take action. Even if you only wake up 100 people a year, that's a lot. You may end up waking up millions a year like I've been able to do thanks to listeners spreading the word about the broadcast on Facebook and Twitter and their email and at work and telling folks about the local AM and FM stations they listen to. I'll be driving into work, hour before work, red light. I almost always roll down the windows and go, hey, tune into this station in an hour. You want to hear some important stuff for you and your family. They're like, what is it? Just believe me, you don't want to miss it. And it's that little act. It's that energy. So many people don't even want to talk to other people. That's why I love living out in the country, because people talk to you. They smile at your children. I understand being in the city, being busy, having someplace to go, but it's just this me attitude where you think you're getting ahead because you're so self-centered. Now, I get because the people are so nasty in the city on the other side, not wanting to strike up a conversation because they can get so weird. And all of that compounds in together. All of that becomes a major issue. Now, Mark Moreno has always been very punctual on the show. He's down in Rio de Janeiro covering the big UN conference. His Skype didn't work yesterday, and then now the phone isn't working, and it may be a time zone issue. That's why time zones are so weird. You got to tell them, okay, you want to come on? You'll be on in 5 hours. In my experience, when somebody's in a totally different, we are getting him? Okay. Now he's on Skype. I just heard his voice. Okay. I like Mark. Always a jovial, friendly person. Continuing here, the Supreme Court was going to release the info this morning, and then it was this afternoon, and then it was in the next few days. That's why I was like, I'm not going to cover when this Supreme Court decision comes out because they could wait. And now they're saying next week. The Hill newspaper reporting tensions rise as justices kick health care ruling to next week. And I've predicted it's going to be scaled back health care. But the banks want it. They wrote it, but people aren't buying it. And so it'll be selectively enforced. It'll just codify where basically they make you get health care, and then now charity care doesn't exist anymore unless you're an illegal alien. It'll just be an even more of a scam and fraud when they're done. And it'll be called a victory for conservatives to be mean and not give people health care. Really, we had health care, the best in the world, the cheapest in the world, and everybody got taken care of until government got involved. How many medical doctors have I had on this broadcast who talk about how when they went to college just 30, 40 years ago, they were told, you will do 1/3 of your care as charity care. Even if you're at a for-profit hospital, this is what you do, Hippocratic Oath. And they expanded on that. These so-called charity hospitals, and that's most of them that got taken over by the Rockefellers and other big foundations, they're supposed to be charity hospitals, but they're really big profit hospitals. It's just that since they're tax-free, they don't pay taxes. Great scam. So nobody can compete with them, so they've taken over, and they're jacking up the prices. A lot of other things get involved here, but now that we have socialist health care, now the government says we do have to cut back on the quality, and now they're admitting in England over 100, what was it, 30,000 old people killed each year. Oh, your brain tumor's 100% operable if done in 1 month. You're going to wait 18 months. Well, it's almost 100% kill within 1 year. I've watched their parliament where they admit it, where those defending the National Health Service admit it. Okay, we got big breaking news here, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Moreno joins us from the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, and this is big news. This is big news now. We've got it linked up at Infowars.com from where it originates, ClimateDepot.com. Former top congressional advisor, researcher Mark Moreno, and also Christopher Monckton of Brenchley, Lord Christopher Monckton. They are making the new global government treaty, which they admit you'll be arrested. They said this in Durban last year if you criticize their carbon taxes. By the way, guys, pull up the headline. $1 million fine or million fine in Australia for criticizing carbon tax. You'll get mainstream news saying they have secret agents. It starts next week. Listening if you complain or say it's costing more money. This is Australia, supposedly part of the Western free speech. This is worse than communist China. Well, now UN censorship, Rio Earth Summit text is now secret. Senior official of Transparent UN admits Rio negotiating text is classified. And we got Lord Monckton on tomorrow. Joining us is Mark Moreno now. Mark, big breaking news here. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this is a shock. I've been to every UN conference pretty much since the last Earth Summit in Johannesburg, South Africa, 2002. And you've always been able to go up and take a look at their draft text. They have a UN documentation center. They've always been willing to provide it. Well, as you know, Lord Monckton at Climate Depot broke this story in Durban last year about the climate criminal court and the rights of Mother Earth. And it, you picked it up. It ended up on the Drudge Report. It got picked up all over the internet, on television, cable news. This became a huge embarrassment for the UN, which they then pulled those parts of the agreement at the last minute. Well, this year, they seem to have learned from their mistake, and now they have everything behind restricted access. We can't even have access to the government delegation. We can't have access to the plenary session. We can't have access to these texts, either hard copy or available online. They have completely shut down what they've previously have said. This is going to be the most transparent conference. They're going to make everything available. They apparently have a lot to hide, and here we are now going through full day 2 of this conference, and we have no idea what they're doing behind the scenes because for the first time ever, they've banned